Well, I guess the best way to start off this video would be to do a quick recap for those who didn't see the one about Lost in Nightmares. The basic gist is that Resi 5 was the first game of the franchise to introduce downloadable story DLC instead of simply costumes or additional characters for the raid mode. The two DLCs for Resi 5 were odd additions to see from Capcom because they followed in the footsteps of the Ada Wong additional content from Resi 4, but the background stories that they're trying to put more life into are totally unnecessary, since they are plot turns of just getting a character from A to B in ways that made the most sense off-screen and didn't actually need to be shown on-screen. The first one, Lost in Nightmares, was the story of Chris and Jill's mission that got them separated at the start of Resi 5, and now in this DLC, we get to enjoy the story of figuring out how Jill escaped the exploding island after she was freed from her brainwashing at the end of the game. Yeah, this is going to be a fun ride. So the one thing that you should know about what kind of product this is that the DLCs reuse a lot of assets from the main game. Since these DLCs are being told in the base game as well, there were a couple cutscenes totally recycled from the actual game for the DLCs just because it made sense in the context of the story to do that. On top of that, there are enemies, locations, backgrounds, and parts of the set design copy-pasted over as well, and the way that Capcom Lego stacked all of this stuff together made the whole thing so generic that I'm betting that it could be outdone by 3 moderately motivated modders of Resi 5, maybe because they'd put in a unique character or two. After the first reused cutscene is played, we find out that Jill was paired with Josh Stone throughout her escape, a somewhat capable AI companion, and while it wasn't perfect, at least he provided a distraction and could actually take some shots. Together, they get the chance to conquer the new sets that Capcom was able to scrape together out of the old stuff lying around on the disc. The big problem with talking about this DLC is that unlike Lost in Nightmares, this DLC doesn't have the Executioner Trap puzzle or the walk around the Spencer Mansion. This DLC really has nothing unique unto itself except for the ending survival mission, where the player has to face infinitely respawning odds for 5 minutes. Oh wait, it's not 5 minutes, it's 7 minutes, because fake out! Duh! But to be fair, that fake out was done fairly well and was at least a decent enough of an example of a game taking the rug out from under its players and raising the stakes. But other than that, the DLC mainly consists of a ton of generic zombies and a lot of bullets between you and your target that escape Choppa. You go through a construction zone, a harbor facility, and a communications area, and it's also generic looking. A location that is so bland that all the parts of the DLC just bleed together into one homogeneous mess. The possibly saving grace is that the combat is not a walk in the park between cannoneer zombies and a multitude of those Gatling gun and chainsaw super zombies that take forever to take down. Plus, the density of zombies in these small levels make for a pretty shocking upward turn in difficulty. However, any sort of satisfaction that can be had in unwitting the enemy with superior cunning and firepower is easily undermined by the objective in this DLC just being go to a place and eventually you'll be rescued if you keep going from A to B to C to D. I will be fair and say that Jill does get some different animations for her QTE combat than Chris, but other than that, she has no unique weapons or abilities, and the DLC doesn't unlock any gimmicks beyond the previously mentioned cannons that lose effectiveness to you immediately once you commandeer one. You'd be much better off handling the sniper rifle and taking out your targets individually than trying to wrangle one of those weapons onto your side, especially since the enemy can easily climb ladders and is probably already on your position once you get there in the first place. The last thing I can say is that at least the DLC tried to do some quality voice acting. It is sparse throughout this 60 minutes of additional content, but the actors did have some passion behind this project, and it's traditionally as goofy and Hollywood-esque as anything else in the franchise. But other than that, the gameplay and the story of this DLC are spectacularly bland, with even less to offer a paying customer than Lost in Nightmares, which had a more interesting locale and challenges to overcome. Seriously, any game that is still trying to pull out that old card of an infinitely respawning survival timer challenge should give back their Union card the instant they go for it, because it is one of the most overplayed gameplay cliches imaginable. It is a proof of laziness by its own existence, a literal bottom-scraping idea that should be discarded as a boring waste of time. Steam derivatives are making entire games out of this tired and tedious gameplay idea, and it isn't fun ever without some impressive spins on the idea, and this DLC doesn't offer that to make up for the grinding nature of its single survival challenge. Just toss an infinite number of zombies at the player. I am 100% sure that they'll be in the throes of panic and sitting on the edges of their couches once they get to that ending. Trust me. Yeah, we trusted you, and somehow we got this totally useless DLC pack telling us an amazingly boring story, and in spite of all the yawns that the approval staff must have given while it was in post-production, this somehow got released as an additional tack-on product for extra money. This DLC is absolute rubbish. Do not play it. A waste of an hour of your life is not worth the petty victory you would have gained over faceless zombie dipshits. For old time's sake, let's put up that scoreboard. And leave you all with a victory for gamers. Thanks for watching.